Marilyn Monroe. Just saying the name brings up an image, right? The platinum blonde hair, the bright red lipstick, that iconic white dress. She's one of the most famous faces of the 20th century, no question. But behind that incredible icon was a real person, someone complex, whip smart, and incredibly ambitious. So today, we're going to peel back the layers of that myth to find the real woman, Norma Jean, and really get the story behind the legend. And this quote from biographer Sarah Churchwell, it just perfectly sets the stage. These are the three big myths about Marilyn that we're going to tackle. Was she really just a dumb blonde, a fragile victim of the Hollywood machine? Or was she a seriously talented actress and a sharp businesswoman who actually played the system better than almost anyone? Let's find out. Okay, so first things first, we have to understand the persona she created, the one the entire world fell in love with, the ultimate blonde bombshell. You really have to appreciate just how carefully this whole global image was built. For an entire decade, she was a top-billed star, one of the biggest names out there. Her movies made hundreds of millions. We're talking billions in today's money. She wasn't just a sex symbol of the 50s. She was the sex symbol, a symbol of a whole new kind of freedom. And the studios leaned into this, big time, especially with movies like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, where she absolutely perfected that dumb blonde character. The breathy voice, the witty one-liners, it was all an act, a brilliant and very, very successful performance. But here's the thing. That performance was a complete creation. And to really get who Marilyn Monroe was, you first have to meet the person she started out as, Norma Jean Mortensen. And the difference between the two is just staggering. On one hand, you have Norma Jean. She was born into a really tough situation, spending her childhood moving between different foster homes and even an orphanage. During World War II, she was just a young woman working in a factory. That's where a photographer first spotted her. And on the other hand, you have Marilyn Monroe, the invention. The name itself was picked out in 1946. Her naturally curly brown hair, gone, replaced by that trademark platinum blonde. Norma Jean was a survivor, but Marilyn Monroe, she was a superstar, carefully crafted to become what one studio literally called its greatest asset. And this, right here, is where that whole myth of the fragile, powerless star just starts to fall apart. Because Marilyn was anything but a passive player in her own life. No way. She was a rebel, and she took on the biggest, most powerful force in Hollywood, the studio system itself. And what was her weapon? This number, $200 million. That was her leverage. She was one of the most bankable, profitable stars on the entire planet, and she was about to use that power to demand control. But can you believe this? Even though she was Fox's biggest moneymaker, she was totally trapped. She was stuck in this old 1950 contract that paid her way, way less than other stars at her level. The head of the studio just kept sticking her in those same dumb blonde roles, and he flat out refused her requests for more serious dramatic parts. She had zero say in her movies, her directors, nothing. It was a golden cage, for sure. But Marilyn wasn't about to just sit there and take it. She planned this brilliant, calculated rebellion. First, she just said no. She refused to make another silly comedy, and boom, the studio suspended her. So what did she do? In a move that absolutely shook Hollywood, she packed up, left for New York, and started her own production company. I mean, this was almost unheard of back then. And while she was in New York, she got serious about her craft, studying method acting with the legendary Lee Strasberg. The message was loud and clear. I am a serious actress. And you know what? It worked. The studio had no choice but to give in. And wow, just look at the results of her victory. I mean, check out the difference in her 1955 contract. Her salary went through the roof. But even more important, look at the creative control. She now had the right to choose her projects and her directors. And for every movie she made for Fox, she could make one with her own company. She beat the studio system at its own game. She won a level of power and creative control that was just unprecedented for an actress at that time. And did she prove it was worth the fight? Oh yeah, immediately. Freed from being typecast, she gave this amazing, critically acclaimed dramatic performance in Bus Stop. And for her iconic role in Some Like It Hot, she won a Golden Globe. This wasn't some dumb blonde. This was a master of her craft who was finally in the driver's seat. But all of that, the fight, the control, the fame, it all came at a huge personal cost. The incredible pressure of being Marilyn Monroe, on top of all the trauma from her past, it really started to take a heavy toll.
This was the dark side of that glamour. Her very public marriages to legends like Jody Maggio and Arthur Miller, they all fell apart. She suffered from terrible stage fright, anxiety, and painful, lifelong health issues. And to cope with all that pressure, she became more and more dependent on barbiturates and alcohol, which led to hospitalizations for severe depression. Her last few years were just this tragic, rapid downward spiral. The filming of her last movie, The Misfits, was incredibly difficult. Soon after, her marriage to Arthur Miller ended. By 1961, she needed weeks of psychiatric care. And then, in a devastating blow, she was fired by Fox in June of 1962. Just 2 months later, on August 4th, she was found dead. She was only 36 years old. So the big question is, why? More than 60 years after her death, why does her star seem to burn brighter than ever? What is it about her that makes the legend endure? I mean, her status as a pop culture icon is just undeniable, right? The American Film Institute ranks her as one of the absolute greatest screen legends of all time. Her image is still everywhere, on everything. She's not just a memory from Hollywood's golden age. She's a global brand that's as powerful as ever. But I think her real legacy, the reason we're all still so fascinated by her, is this constant tension. It's the gap between Marilyn, the bombshell persona, and Norma Jean, the smart, tough, ambitious woman who fought for respect. She was both the creation and the creator, the image and the artist. And that conflict is what makes her story so endlessly compelling. Which really brings us to our final question. Was she a victim, someone who got trapped by the very image she perfected? Or was she its master, a brilliant performer who used that persona to grab a level of power and independence that no one thought was possible? You know, maybe in the end, she was both. And that, right there, is the real story behind the myth.